mystic is a lover. A mystic, Matthew Fox tells us, is a mystic is someone who digs deep to find the place in us that outside of all the chaos and the noise discovers what it deeply loves. This is what I want to get into in the month of February, the month for lovers. And in response to these times, how becoming a true lover, a mystic, someone who is heart-centered and directly encountering the depth of love, the sacred. And that this practice of digging deep, of being still and digging deep, is what allows you and I to be true lovers, to fall so deeply in love, to be able to turn down the noise of the world and focus our attention and our being on being true lovers. Every solution you need, every change you want to see in your life, in your body, in your relationships, in your money, in the world, comes from this. So I want to invite you in a couple ways you can actually get into this practice. Starting February 22nd, you can join me online or in person on Saturday mornings for the Way of Spiritual Living, to really craft a rhythm of practice, of spiritual practice, to discover what the practices are that help you get into this digging deep and being still and becoming a true lover. So that's Saturday, starting February 22nd. I also want to invite you, if that's not for you, to get on our app. We have a new app launching this month, and I want you to know that on that app, there's so much for you to be supported to do this work. So go to our website, abqcsl.org, get the app, join me on Saturday mornings for 8 weeks, starting February 22nd, and let's become true lovers. I love you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, if you don't know me, I'm Jeffrey McNutt. I'm a practitioner here at the center, and my interest has always been in, okay, this is amazing. We've got these two little tools here. We've got all of these spiritual tools at our disposal, but how do we integrate them into our lives? How do we tap into them in a meaningful way each and every day? Are you living these principles? Are you living a spiritual life in whatever that means to you? The other obstacle that I've understood in being a practitioner is even the word God at the end of that first example that Clarissa gave triggers a lot of people. Oh, there goes 30% of the audience because I said God. And in working with people, it has to be meaningful, and it has to be not dumbed down, but simplified to the point that you know that it's true for you. And only you know that. So whatever it is, as I go through my talk, whatever substitute you need to make, if a word that I said, I've tried to reduce that, but just know that it's all, it really all points at something that I think we all probably could identify with, is the force of your life force. And the way that the tool that I use for that, and that a lot of people use, is breath work. And if you know me, I'm huge on the breath work, because I don't think you can do really grounded spiritual work if you are in the sympathetic nervous system. If your sympathetic nervous system, your fright and flight is activated. So just to maybe catch you up a little bit on what I'm doing, and this is perfect. It's always, whenever I'm asked to speak here, the topic always hits me over the head like a big whack-a-mole mallet, because it generally is exactly what I'm confronted with in my own life or working on. So for the past 3 years, I've been immersed in studying the work of this psychotherapist, Phil Stutz. And if you don't know about his work, the easiest way to access it is there's a documentary just called Stutz, S-T-U-T-Z, on Netflix, and it's a beautiful thing that was produced by Jonah Hill, and it kind of will introduce you to this man and his work. But the reason I'm interested in his work is what's always, and I alluded to it at the beginning of the talk, it's always fascinated me how to apply any kind of learning and any kind of knowledge in a way that really causes transformation and meaningful change in your life. And Phil Stutz was always a rebel. Right when he got into psychiatry, it was like the third patient, he was jumping out of his skin because he just wanted to help them. But he was taught in psychiatry that there's this wall between you and the client, and your job is to, cue the client to their own path, their own discovery. And he recognized that was not effective in any way, and so he started to buck that trend. And what came to him through his spirit were these tools in all of these different ways that he would work on his patient. He would get still, and a way of not fixing that patient, but giving them a tool that they could use in the moment to address what they were going through, changed his practice and changed the lives of the people that he was working with. And so it's this intersection of psychotherapy and spirituality that his work is done, and I'm working in that now too. I'm part of an intensive group that have been invited to work with him on implementation of his work in a broader sense and bringing it out to the world. And my contribution, the way that my brain works, is I'm really good at, and the other thing is his book his first book was called The Tools, and anybody that knows me knows I'm also a builder, and I gravitated toward that. I'm like, I like tools. Tools resonates with me, I'm like, but what I found in working with this is you can give me all the tools in the world, but if I'm not using them to build any kind of structure, then the tool, I could hammer all day, but if you combine a hammer with a saw and nails, you start to get somewhere, is the way I look at it. So my contribution to this dialogue is in what I'm calling frameworks. And so I've been grappling with this first framework and then I was asked to speak, and it's on the exact thing of how do you stay connected to the knowing, to your purpose, and the knowing that that there is no separation between you and what I'll call for this talk, source, and you. Like there is no separation there. So it's just we'll call it life force for this thing. We are going to play right now with a framework that I've created, and the purpose of it is to tap in to higher forces, we'll call them, higher gifts of the source or gifts of the spirit that if you stay aligned with, and that's what these tools do. We're not going to go into the tools because that would take hours and hours, but I'll just give you a highlight of what that tool is, and we'll pretend that we've done that work so that we get the benefit of it. So just you can see how the framework keeps you plugged in. The work is there's 3 aspects of the reality of being human that human beings will avoid like the plague. And our avoidance of these 3 things are really what cause the majority of our pain and suffering. And the first one is the avoidance of pain. The second one is the avoidance of uncertainty. And the third, don't let my brain go blank here, and the third is that life requires constant effort. And if that doesn't sound great to you, let's just do a quick test. Raise your hand if you've experienced no pain in your life, you've had no loss, you've had no suffering. Anybody? Okay. but we avoid wanting to confront the pain in our lives, or the pain of loss in our lives. Or fear is another one. Have you had no fear in your life? Everybody does, but it's the thing that we avoid. Okay, so anybody love uncertainty? Or can anybody tell me what you're going to be doing 4.5 months from now? Exactly at this time, on that date? No. Okay. And who's got it all figured out? You're done. You don't have to do any more work. Your life is all just going to unfold in a very beautiful and predictable manner from here until the time you die. All right. So there we have the impetus for the work is, and what this framework does is addresses our tendency to get sidetracked and hijacked by those things. All right. Okay. So let's get busy with this star framework. All right. So I'm going to start over down in this. We're going to draw a star, just in our minds as I go along. We're going to start down at the bottom of a point of the star. All right. And that first point represents the higher force called forward motion. One of the things that prevents us from living the lives that we desire is this feeling of being stuck. By a show of hands again, how many people have ever felt stuck in your lives? All right. What causes that? What causes you to be stuck is something that most of us can identify with, or the common term for it would be our comfort zone, which is kind of a misnomer in itself, because if you've been in your comfort zone, most of the time it's not that comfortable, okay? Addiction is a comfort zone coping mechanism. Let's see, what else? Shyness is a very common comfort zone. I couldn't possibly extend myself because I'm shy. The things we believe about ourselves that keep us away from facing and receiving the gift of pain, in a way, which we'll talk about more. That's the thing that we try to avoid, is pain, but pain is there to be your teacher, okay? So now we know that forward motion is what we're after, and we know that this tendency, this human tendency toward living in our comfort zone is in the way. So Phil has created he creates these tools that in 10 seconds, once you learn they're all rooted in archetypal history and psychology and spirituality, and it boils it down to just do this thing for 10 seconds, and because you know what it's intending to do, it'll snap you out of that and get you back into forward motion. So that is our intention. I'm just going to put it, let's picture it this way, so I don't have to explain the whole tool. Just take whatever you know as your comfort zone, or a pain or a fear that you have or whatever, and you're going to put it next to you in your car, and you're going to drive that car to a car wash, okay? And that car wash represents this tool. It represents pain as a teacher. So you're taking your comfort zone to that car wash. And what happens when you get to the car wash? They put you on that conveyor belt, and they have you put your car in neutral. You are not in control any longer. You have to surrender to that flow. So you are surrendering to pain. You're not going to avoid that pain any longer. So what happens? That car wash all of a sudden grabs your car on a conveyor and starts to pull it forward, okay? And the next thing that happens is all of a sudden you're confronted by all these brushes and water squirting, and it's working on you. It was the author David Foster Wallace that said this the best, and he said, "The truth will set you free, but only after it's finished with you." And the other one that Clarissa and I use all the time is, "The only way out is through." So you are on this conveyor belt now, and you're going through this car wash, and it is working on you, and you are accepting whatever it is that you've been avoiding, okay? And then the gift of the car wash is now that you come off and it releases you off of that conveyor belt, your car is still in neutral, but it always is on this concrete ramp. And what happens? You're propelled into forward motion without you having to do a thing. You're rolling. So the concept here of that first gift of forward motion is surrender to allowing pain to be your teacher, and that will put you into forward motion. And now with being in forward motion, there's a gift associated with that. And that gift is you are now available. You are available in ways that you aren't when you are avoiding, when you are in your comfort zone. When I'm in my comfort zone is, when I'm in overwhelm, I go to food and to wine. It's my escape. Am I available in the way that I want to be in my life when I'm hiding in those places? No. So availability is the gift of the higher force of forward motion. So park that down here on point 1 of the star is the gift of availability. Okay, and now we're moving ourselves up because now we're in motion. We're not stuck anymore, and we arrive at the second point of the star. And that gift, or that higher force that's wanting to help to elevate our life force is something called outflow. Okay, we are in the flow now. We are in motion, but now it's incumbent upon us to be part of that flow and to let our connection to the divine express through us as love. So that outflow, think of it as you are now a conduit for love, or that's what we're after. Okay? What keeps us from that? It's something that the best way for me to explain it is it's the maze. And if you don't know what the maze is, think of somebody that wronged you or hurt you in some way, and you can't get past that. And so you are obsessing, about what happened to you. Oh, that Janet, she just always cuts me off whenever I'm talking, and you just obsessive. The point here is obsessive thinking. That's the enemy of outflow, of you being able to express the love that you are, is obsessive thinking. Okay? So the tool, in short, that gets you that helps you move through and puts you in a state of outflow. What's the best way for me to explain this in a quick way? Are you familiar with what a bellows is? A fire, one of those old-timey fireplace things that stoke a fire. So that's what I want you to focus on now. You've got this bellows, okay? And the bellows is compressed. And so you pull those handles apart, and picture yourself as you do that, you are pouring all the love that you know in your heart and that you've ever experienced in your life. You're pouring that in as you inflate that bellow. So the point is when you find yourself stuck in that way, in the maze of thinking that way, bring love to it fully and experience the love come back to you. And when we do that, the second gift that we get is loving. Okay, the gift is being the conduit of love. I am available, and now I am available to be loving. Okay, so now we're up here, and now we're going to travel down to that third point on the star. Okay, and that third point of the star, the higher force is creative expression. And we talked about purpose. How do we tap into our purpose? How do I know what it is that I'm supposed to do? Or how do I make sure that I'm bringing my gifts forward into the world? What gets in our way of that process is generally shame. Okay, so, for me, I love music. The first recital I ever went to, I had practiced and and sang my song 100 times. And I still remember it was Black is the Color of My True Love's Hair. It was this beautiful Irish ballad. And I was ready, and I had my tux on, and I was probably maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I walked out onto the stage, and the accompanist played, and it was my turn to come in, and I couldn't remember the name of the song or the first word or anything, and I absolutely froze. And the piano player was just playing, and I was standing there, and I could not overcome it. And so I, just ran off the stage. And as an 11-year-old boy, that stuck with me for a long time, and it's what Jung calls a shadow. So it's that shadow. The shadow is, whatever that is for you, is your enemy to really being able to share your gifts with the world. So the work there is about identifying that for you. So I want to maybe have you connect to something that you have a hard time accepting in yourself. A tendency, anything that it is, or something that like that I just explained that may have happened to you that you know is in your way. Okay? And so I want you to take whatever that feeling is and then make it into a snapshot of you at that particular time, or the personification of whatever that memory is. And let that snapshot come to life. And then your work there is simply to sit with that shadow self and tell them that you're with them and that it's okay and that you're sorry. Give them whatever it is that they need to know that they can move forward and that you're not ashamed of them. Okay, so I know I'm drastically oversimplifying that. People work on shadow for years and years, but there are tools that help you to do that and help you to move past it. But that's the work, is to allow to remove whatever obstacle is in the way of you, now that you're available and that you're loving. What is the gift that you are inherently here to give into the world? And as you do that, you come through that. I titled these for this talk so that we would have a common language around the gift. And when you do that, yes, you are given the gift of giving. You are giving. So now I'm available, I'm loving, and I'm in action, I'm giving. Okay, that's that third part of the star. And as I move and I'm able to give, I arrive at that fourth beautiful point of the star, which is great. The gift of source there is gratitude, gratefulness. Okay? So what gets in our way of really expressing our gratefulness is something that I call the black cloud. It's negative thinking, okay? You're in the flow of your life, and you can't, for the life of you, see anything to be grateful for. That's the black cloud. And I know that we've all been there before. Bleep my life. I can't find any ray of, I felt that way certainly election day. I was like, what's the point? Okay, what is the point? How do you overcome that? And what we're trying to do is, much in the way that we use the bellow, something, a quick tool to learn there would be a leaf blower, okay? And you're going to take that leaf blower and you are going to puncture a hole in that black cloud that will reconnect you to the sun, the source, spirit, okay? And the way you do that is just close your eyes and just start, and make these as small as possible, just small gratitudes. What are you grateful for? I'm looking out and I'm grateful that I know Ben Clark. I'm grateful that I know how to cook. I'm grateful, just start creating what Phil calls a grateful flow. And as you do, picture that flow like a leaf blower going up and obliterating that black cloud so that you can, again, feel your connection to spirit. Okay. So that's the tool in brief. But the gift there that you get out of that, when I'm in that place of black cloud thinking and negative thinking, I'm not connected. And so as you blow that hole in, you are reconnecting yourself to the flow that we achieved in that first step. Okay? So now I'm available, and I am, what was the second one? I am loving, thank you. I'm giving, and I'm connected. Okay? You've been given these 4 gifts, and now you're over here. And what happens over here with 99% of the people that Phil has worked with, that I've worked with as a practitioner, is you say, thank you very much, I'm done, and you're off thinking you're fixed. And then, Phil talks about it, then 3 months later, that person would reemerge back at his office worse than when they had started. And that really frustrated him. He was like, why? I feel like a failure. And he realized that this last higher force is one that you have to produce. This is not given to you. It's the one that you produce that brings you back into that process and completes this framework that I've created. And that higher power is willpower. Okay, and the enemy to willpower is this human tendency to avoid the fact that life requires constant effort. So you have to generate the willpower. Nobody's gonna get Clarissa out of bed at 8 a.m. Certainly not her alarm, I've learned. Certainly not me, I've learned. She has to exercise the power of will. She has to bring that to the table. So the quick tool for aligning you with the importance of that is just close your eyes again and picture a version of yourself that you're going to visit, and that person is you on their deathbed. Okay, and you're there, and you reach out and you hold your own hand, and you're there, and that version of you on the deathbed was asleep, and they all of a sudden their eyes open, and they look directly into your eyes, and they say, "Do not waste this precious moment. You have absolutely no idea, how much longer you have. Don't waste this. Don't waste this precious moment." Yesterday, Clarissa and I sang at the funeral of Marie's son, 26 years old. So we don't know that, but that connection with that, I know it's dramatic, but that moment helps you to realize and helps you to all it's intended to do is just trigger your willpower to say, yes, I know this is important for me to do. And I exercise that will, and the gift of that is the force of will. And as you do that, you travel down that last thing and you arrive back where you started in this star framework. You come back into forward motion. So the next thing that comes up into your life that you're resisting or avoiding, you can complete that circuit again. And our ability to do this strengthens our willpower.